guys, it's Ashley and welcome to day 10, I think it is, of my 12 days of BOOKMAS video marathon. Today I'm going to be talking about the 21 books that I will get to in 2021. If you watched yesterday, it should have gone up. I made a reaction video to the video that I made back in January called 20 Books I Will Get To in 2020. If you haven't watched that yet, I suggest going to do it to see how well I did this year, because this video is going to do the same thing that other video did, where I make it now and then next year I will hopefully react to it and show you guys how many of these books I managed to get to. Before we get into it, I just want to give a little rule book of sorts as to how I picked these books. Some of them are sequels that have already come out to books that I read, so not things that have not been released yet. These all have been released and are either on my bookshelf or I have yet to actually get. Or these books are ones that I just have never read and have heard a lot about and have wanted to pick up. So none of these books are anticipated releases. I will actually have a 2021 anticipated releases video going up, but not during this video marathon BOOKMAS thing. I'll do it in January. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let me just share with you what books that I will get to in 2021. If it kills me. Just kidding, I'm not gonna go that far, but also yes. I decided to make the first couple of books on this list sequels that I have talked about so many times on my channel already, so I will just breeze through them really quickly and then get on to the ones that you have not heard me talk about very much. First up is a clear choice if you've been watching my videos. That is The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. I want to get to the second book in this series. That's all there is to it. The second story that I am determined to get to next year is Layer of Dreams by Libba Bray, which is book 2 in the Diviner series. I read the Diviners on audiobook this year around Halloween time, and it was perfect for that time of the year, but I just have never moved on to the second book, which is why it's on this list. Third is going to be The Last of August by Brittany Caballero, which is the second book in the Charlotte Holmes series, I think is what it's called. This is a Sherlock Holmes, John Watson retelling sort of thing, following their great-great-grandchildren as they go to boarding school and, you know, deal with murder mysteries and things like that. Book number 4 on this list is another sequel. It is Unravel the Dusk by Elizabeth Lim, which I actually have not talked about on this channel before. At least this sequel I haven't. The first book is Spin the Dawn, which I read this year as a part of my Reading Books My Subscribers Recommended to Me video, and I absolutely loved it. I just have not moved on to the second one yet, so that's why it's on this list. This is a sort of fantasy following a girl who is a seamstress or a tailor, whatever you want to call her, and she sort of decides to become like the emperor's tailor. She goes through this competition, these trials to make these dresses, and it's just a really good time. I don't know why I had to say good twice, but it only emphasized how good it was. Next up is another no-brainer if you have been with me for a little bit, and that is Fire by Kristen Kishore, which is the second book in the Graceling Realm world. I'm not going to call this a series because this book I don't believe is a sequel. I think it takes place before Graceling, so if anything it's a prequel, but I'm honestly not sure. So don't quote me on that, but I've been looking forward to this book forever now since I read Graceling back in June or July. I just haven't gotten to it yet. That's all there is to it. Book number 6 on this list is another sequel, and that is Aurora Burning by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, one that I've been meaning to get to for so long now and have still yet to read. This is the sequel to Aurora Rising, which y'all know how much I love Illuminae, how much I love Aurora Rising, how much I love those sort of sci-fi stories by these same authors, so just haven't gotten to this story yet. Sorry. And so from here on out, books number 8 through 21, these will all be stories that I have only either talked about a little bit or I have not talked about at all, books that I haven't really read. There are still a couple of sequels mixed in here, only because I accidentally put them at the bottom of the list rather than up toward the top with the other ones, but this should be good from here on out. Book number 7 on this list is Our Dark Duet by Victoria Schwab. This is one that actually made an appearance in the last video, the 20 books I will get to in 2020, and I'm bringing it back because I have yet to read it. This is the sequel to This Savage Song, which I would actually reread before getting into this story because I remember nothing about this series. It's about humans and monsters. We follow a girl named Kate who is a human, a boy named August who is a monster, and they form an unlikely relationship sort of thing as they deal with stuff happening. I don't remember, like I already said. That's just as much as I remember. The next book that I really want to get to in 2021 is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I actually have talked about this book quite a bit recently, so I won't spend too much time on it. I know nothing of what it's about, but I loved The Night Circus, and that's why this is on this list. Plus, I've heard people rave about this story since it came out, so I definitely want to get to it at some point. Book number 9 on this list is My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry by Frederick Backman. I always forget what the title of this story is because it's so long. This is a story that a lot of you guys have been recommending me since I said that I absolutely loved Beartown by the same author, so that's why I picked this one up. This may be a book that goes into another vlog about reading books you guys recommended to me. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to read this one on my own or read it in that vlog, but we'll figure it out. I am planning on making a second version of that vlog though. I have not forgotten about it. I've just been putting it off, but I have been wanting to do it. This next one I probably could have put at the beginning of this video with the other books I've talked a lot about, but I didn't, so it is what it is. But that book is none other than, drumroll, A Reaper at the Gates by Saba Tahir. This is another book that I featured in the other video that I made from 2020. This is a book I've talked about so many times, a series that I've said that I'm going to be rereading so many times to prepare. But the reason that I'm putting it back on this list is because the 4th and final book in this series has come out this year, and I feel like that might give me the push that I need to finish these books. So we'll see what happens. I have said and promised and swore that I will finish this entire series this year because I'm dying to, but I just need the extra push and motivation to finally do it. So crossing my fingers that it happens. It's on this list. We'll see. Book number 11 is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, which is a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in the 1920s in Shanghai. I'm so excited for this story. I've been wanting to read it since I got my hands on it, and I just haven't yet, so therefore it is on this list for next year. So the next book that I put on this list, I don't think I have ever talked about on my channel, like ever. I actually got this book from Thrift Books a long time ago because it was really cheap, and I remember hearing that this was a good like YA fantasy series back in the day, and I was like, okay, like I want to read more fantasy, so let's just go ahead and do it. And I bought it, and I've never touched it or looked at it. I have thought about reading it, but I've never like featured it on my channel. But without any further ado, the book that I'm talking about is The Demon King by Cinda Williams-Chima. I've heard a lot about Cinda Williams-Chima, I'm not sure. Her work, I've heard a lot about it, and I've been wanting to get into it for a while now. I've been wanting to delve into like a new YA fantasy that like has a lot of books that are already out, like a good long sort of series I've been wanting to get into. So this is going to be on this list. Like I've said in a couple of other videos, I am planning on next year being a full fantasy year, like just a kick-ass year for fantasy. So I'm hoping that I can hop into this book and maybe get started on some of her work too. We'll see what happens, but yeah. I know nothing about this story other than that I think it's multi-perspective or it follows multiple characters and it's just a high fantasy. That's all I know about it, and that's all I need to know. I'm in. Book number 13 is Furyborn by Claire Legrand. This is another high fantasy that I know next to nothing about. Other than that, I'm pretty sure it follows like 2 different time periods, possibly. I could totally be wrong, but I thought that's what I remember. I heard a lot about this story back when it first came out, but I haven't really heard anybody talking about it at all recently, especially after the 3rd book in this series came out. So I'm, I don't know, eager to just finally see what it's about and whether I like it and why. I haven't really heard much about it since then. It's been on my shelf for a very long time, so I think it's about time to finally read it, and we'll see. The next book that I'm planning on getting to in 2021 is one that I have talked about a couple of times, but not really much, and that is The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. Again, this is a book that I've heard so much about. I feel like everybody who reads this book absolutely loves it. I know that this is Liv from Stories for Coffee, one of her favorite books, I'm pretty sure, and the covers for the books that like continue to come out in the series have just been like really pretty, so that's one of the reasons that I've really wanted to get to this book. I know that this is set in Barcelona in 1945, and it's about a guy who finds a book called The Shadow of the Wind, possibly, but then he finds out that like somebody else is destroying all of those books in addition to all of that author's work or something. I'm not really sure like where the story goes from there, but I'm pretty sure that's how it starts, and it just sounds very intriguing. So I've been interested in this story for a while, and I'm going to continue to be interested in it until I finally pick it up. This next book is another sequel that I probably should have put at the beginning of this video, but I just totally forgot, and that is The Firekeeper by J.C. Cervantes. This is the 2nd book in the Stormrunner trilogy, Trilogy, the third book of which just came out this year, so I'm eager to finally finish this series and just get through it. I've heard really good things about the book series as it continues, and although I've only read book 1, I'm like really excited for it because book 1 was really, really good, and these covers, you guys, the covers just keep getting better and better, so I'm really, really excited to see where the story goes.
Your followers want to see my hair. Hi, Ashley's followers.
Oh my god.
This is my hair. I look like I belong in a boy band. Okay,
I'm so happy.
Bye, Ashley's followers.
Anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted, this is a Rick Riordan Presents story. It follows Maya and Aztec mythology, and it's about a boy named Zane who is just so funny, and I love him, and I can't wait to read more. Next up, we have another story that I believe I've talked 0 times about on my channel, but for some reason I just want to get to it this year. I can't explain to you guys why I put this on this list. I really can't. I want to try it. I don't know. But the book that I'm talking about is The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. I've never read this book or this series, but I know that it's like a childhood classic in a way. I don't really know for sure. Like, this was not a story that I ever really grew up with, but I've heard a good amount about it, and I know that there's like the whole HBO show that came out, and I'm not really sure if that's getting like the best reviews, but it seemed really interesting to me, so I want to kind of read this story to try to watch that. I don't know. Like I said, I don't really have a full reason as to why I put this on this list. I just was feeling it, and so I want to try it, and we'll see what happens. Guys, I'm just full of surprises because I have another book that I have never talked about on this channel before. Actually, I'm pretty sure the last like couple of books that I have right now are ones that I really have not talked about much, if at all, on this channel. So the next story that I have is another YA fantasy. And that is Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. So I've had this story on my shelf for a very long time and have yet to get to it, as usual. But the reason that I am including this on this list is because I recently somehow stumbled upon Susan Dennard's Instagram on Instagram. Where else would I have done that? She was talking about the next book release that's going to be coming out that got pushed to next year, I think it was. I don't know, something about the way that she was talking about it got me really excited for it, and also I'm pretty sure they're making like an adaptation of this, and she keeps like talking about that, and I don't know, just like being on an author's Instagram sometimes, when they're excited for their own books, it makes you excited for the book, even if you haven't read it yet. So I'm sitting there looking through Susan Dennard's Instagram going like, wow, I'm really excited for this like 4th, 5th, whatever book this is in the Witchland series. And then I'm like, wait, I haven't even read book 1 yet. So here we go. The only thing that I know about this story is that the main character is a truth witch, I'm pretty sure, which means that she can tell when people are lying or tell when people aren't telling the truth, which is also lying, so I guess I said it right the first time. But that's pretty much it. That's all I know, so that's all I am interested in knowing before I hop into this series. I'm excited. I've always wanted to read this book, and I just never have. I'm pretty sure that I haven't talked about like one non-fantasy book so far on this list, but that is going to change soon, I promise, because the next story that I have on this list, number 18, is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I have heard so much about this book, and also Take a Hint, Danny Brown, I think it's called, by the same author. So much about these books this year. It is insane to me how much I've heard so much hype around these books. So they're gonna be on this list. I am counting both of them as one story just because they are contemporary like romance stories, and I feel like I can read them pretty quickly, but I am counting them as like one space on this list. So technically we have 22 books on this list, but we're not gonna think about that right now. Yeah, I don't know anything about these books. I don't know anything about the stories and the particulars behind them, but I know that they're romance and I know that they are so freaking hyped. So I'm excited to attempt and try them out. You all know I love a good romance, so I'm here for this. So books number 19, 20, and 21, again, I have never talked about on this channel before, but they've always been in the back of my mind. You know, one of those books that I'm just like, maybe one day I'll get to them, right? The first book that I want to talk about out of these last 3 is The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I've seen this series around so much. Everybody who reads it, I feel like really likes it and hypes it up, so I'm very excited to attempt this year. This is a fantasy, but I'm not sure if it's adult fantasy. I'm pretty sure it is, but I could also be totally wrong. But again, the reason that it's on this list is because this has been a pretty hyped book. Like I said, everybody that reads it, I feel like likes it, and so I'm really excited to try it out. I'm pretty sure that the series also finished this year, or another book in the series came out this year. I'm not sure if this is a trilogy or like an ongoing series or what's happening, but I know that there are multiple books out, and that's all I need to get started, just to know that there are more stories ready for me to read immediately. Book number 20 on this list is The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. The only reason that this is on this list, because this is a pretty outlier book for me to put on this list, not really, but sort of, is because I recently saw the trailer to the movie that's coming out based on this series with Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley. Is that her name? I'm so sorry. I apologize. I'm pretty sure they're calling it Chaos Walking, possibly, which I think is the name of the series. But I want to read this book before I watch the movie. I have been slightly interested in this story ever since I first read what it was about years ago, but I've never put it on any sort of TBR. It's never been on my like immediate radar. And so I just decided I want to try to read it this year before I see the film. Things that I know about this book, which are next to nothing, other than that, I'm pretty sure that there's this like world where like people's thoughts can be heard by everybody. Like thoughts are like broadcasted, if that makes sense. That's what I remember back when I read the synopsis for the first time, and that's also what was kind of confirmed for me when I watched the trailer, so that's what I know. And that's all I'm going to know before going into the story. And book number 21 on this list, the final book that I will try to get to in 2021, is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This is another extremely hyped up book that I have seen constantly, especially from like Elias, who read it and then got everybody else to read it, and so now everybody's talking about it, and it's just like constantly on Instagram all the time. Like anytime I go on there, I see this story. That normally would be enough to get me to want to read the book, but what really got this on this list, right? Like what really stood out and put this book on this list for me was the fact that people have been comparing it to The Umbrella Academy. And y'all, when I heard that, this shit was going on this list immediately. Like immediately. I'm very excited to attempt this story. I don't know anything about it as usual. All I have about this book, it's hyped, Umbrella Academy, that's it. And so you guys, that's all of them. Those are the 21 books that I will get to in 2021. As I mentioned already, 99% of these are fantasy stories with the exception of Get a Life, Chloe Brown. What can I say? Your girl likes fantasy. I'm really excited this coming year to see how many of these I can actually get to. If you watched my video that should have gone up yesterday about my reaction to the last video that I made, you'll know the number of books I managed to read off of that video this past year, and I am hoping to top that this year. So, cross your fingers for me that I can get more than that number. I'm not going to say the number, you're going to have to watch the video to find out. Ha ha ha. But I'm hoping that I can read more than that. Anyway though, if you have a book or series that you are determined you are going to get to in 2021, let me know in the comments down below. Let's keep each other accountable. Let's try to read these books. Let's go, you guys. We can do this. But other than all of that, I think that's going to be it for this video. So if you want to follow me on any of my socials, all of my handles are in the description. Thank you so much for watching day 10. I'm pretty sure it is, but I could be wrong, of my 12 days of BOOKMAS video marathon, and I will catch you later.